Hi folks, Colin McNamara, 47 Grandview Street. I've been coming down for a couple of years now, and I want to participate, and I try to, but I feel like I'm stonewalled at like every turn. I filed FOIA requests last month. They weren't responded to for 17 days. The day of the meeting, I got the responses. This past month, I filed them in June 6th, 15th. I didn't get my responses until this morning. That's 27 days. The state general statute 1-206 says you guys have 4 days to respond in writing to a taxpayer's request. It's just disappointing, and it puts me in a spot where it's like, what the hell am I going to talk about? But there's so much to talk about. So I'm going to drill down more than 2030 agenda. Manchester Next. Now, this is like the UN's local push for putting through the sustainability agenda that was signed on by the Paris Climate Accord. And I asked for a definition of sustainability. I finally got one from Tim O'Neill from the Sustainability Commission. It says, it refers to practices that meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. And it says many definitions also recognize 3 generally accepted pillars of sustainability: economic, environmental, and social. So these could be defined as ESG, which is environmental, social governance type of determinations. But this definition is overly broad, because who's going to say like what you do now isn't going to affect someone in the future? We don't have a crystal ball, and it's only like 12 words. It's not very clear. This is from the Sustainability Commission. I'm not really a big fan of the United Nations, because I feel like they usurp our individual autonomy. But I did grab this book at a tag sale when I was out with the kids, called The Universal Declaration of Human Rights from the United Nations. And it's got all these great sounding things, like you have everyone's entitled, freedom of speech, they're born free, you have equal dignity and rights. You have all these, it's like 28, 29 things. Everyone has, no one should be enslaved or put in servitude. No one's subjected to cruel or unusual torture. It sounds great. But then you go to the back of the book. It's got all this really weird postmodern art too. But you go to the back of the book, and Article 29 says that you have all these rights, but these rights and freedoms may in no case be exercised contrary to the purposes and principles of the United Nations. So you have all these rights as long as you agree with these people, but if you disagree, you don't have any rights. It's the second to last article. So that's kind of like indicative of what's what. So I don't know if you guys know what the environmental social governance protocols are, but let's just give an example of Sri Lanka. They adopted the Paris Climate Accord quickly, and they prohibited the use of fertilizer and herbicides, and they have a ESG score of 98, according to the United Nations. They're currently in complete civil uproar, and the president and vice president has fled because the country is collapsing from no food. So that's sustainable. I mean, if you don't want to have a good big footprint of human activity on the earth, you just don't have humans. And that's where it's going. So just recently, this past week, in the Netherlands, they tried to push through the stuff they're trying to right now. And the Dutch farmers are revolting. They're saying they're going to get rid of 30% of the farmers' herds, and they're going to limit their vegetable production by almost 50%. This is the second largest food exporter in the world. And the what's cloaked in sustainability isn't like beneficial for most normal everyday people. It's beneficial for large corporations and multinationals, but it's not good for us in general. Hold on a sec. I guess I'll leave it there. I would just really like to, I thought I would get like a better response when I brought up the fact that it took 17 days last month, and to get 27 days. I messaged Mr. O'Neill, the town attorney, last week on Wednesday. He said he was out for COVID. That's not really a viable excuse when it's already been like 20 days. And then I saw him today at the town hall. I said, "Are you feeling better?" He goes, "No, not really." And I was like, "Well, why aren't you at home?" And especially these questions aren't like, you don't need to be in the office to answer these questions. They're not very sophisticated. They're pretty rudimentary. But I'll leave it there for now, and thanks. See you next time. Thank you. Welcome back, Mr. McNamara. touch on the climate resiliency fund of $700,000. Just curious, maybe that money going to our neighbors under our street. I wonder. There's $100,000 from the 19th for rebranding. And having like a consistent brand is important. And certain signage in town, you guys have been updating. But like across the street from Clayton Library's got one type of sign, and right across the street at the pool, it's a completely different sign. And there's also, I think, like an obelisk sign. Just consistency would be good. Thank you.
Item number 8A17, which is appropriation to climate resiliency fund. Seven.
Thank you. So that would be to establish a fund that would provide resources to respond to storms like we had last summer, and the unbudgeted expenses that we had at Charter Road Park and Ambassador Drive, which were not reimbursed by the federal government, would give us a resource given the frequency of these storms that are occurring.
And would that also include Gerard Street or something?
The idea would be for public type infrastructure improvements, not necessarily for like residents impacted, but we could look at that further.
Okay, thank you. And bear with me, I have a lot of, that means I won't be taking some off consent, so please bear with me. Item 8A19, appropriation to town rebranding reserve account. Will that include a consultant?
That would include, so the idea, and I appreciate Mr. McNamara's comments, acknowledging that we don't have a consistent theme throughout town of branding. And what this would do is we would do some sort of competitive RFP to bring in a consultant that would look to do some community outreach to get input from residents on what they want to see as a common theme for the town, the quote-unquote town, and have consistency throughout our signage, throughout our website, our email signatures, the aesthetics of uniforms, things in buildings. So the idea would be to bring in a third-party consultant.
It's just a question. Before we did that, would it be possible to have a conversations as to things that maybe we would not want to see changed, or?
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking about like the seal or the motto.
Yeah, in general, right.
Yeah, I mean, anything I would recommend would need approval of this body. So, yes, would be the answer.
Thank you.
Mr. McNamara. Colin McNamara, 47 Grandview Street. Over the last year and a half, I guess, different members of the faculty have been going to like Board of Ed meetings and kind of airing some grievances and just venting. And they had some discrepancies because there was only like a 25-cent or 50-cent an hour raise, and they were asking for more. And I just noticed that the Manchester Head Start B1, the Head Start Training and Technical Assistance, funded by federal government for training activities for certified and non-certified staff. So this is to actually train the adults dealing with the kids. $7,600. And then B, to prepare funding for the federal government to prepare 3- and 4-year-olds is $650,000. And there's been already a total for preparing 3- and 4-year-olds of $1.3 million. I don't know how many kids are in the Head Start program in Manchester, but the kids, well, I didn't even factor in the $1.3 million for the funding, but just at the $650,000, it's 85 times more funding for the children. I think some of those, some staff may benefit from more training possibly, or maybe they need more assistance. So maybe some of this funding should be more allocated to staff. I have 3 and 4-year-olds. I have 4 kids, and I mean, they like to run around and play, have a good time, do crafts, activities. It just seems like there could be more money allocated to the staff and their needs of this big chunk of change.
Thank you.